So once you realize that it's not really about like the just the placements, because I'll talk to a mentor, a lot of producers, and they like I just want to do that, and I'm like, nah, you can't just do that.
All right, guys, welcome to the Midi Money podcast. Our guest today has won 3 Grammys. Is that the latest count? 3?
Yeah,
Okay,
three. Yeah.
okay, 3 Grammys as of right now. The credits we don't have all day, so I'll list off some of the highlights like Kanye, Eminem. I think you just got a brand new Eminem placement, right? Drake.
Yeah, it just came out last night.
Big congrats on that. Drake,
Appreciate it.
Beyonce, Jay-Z. I mean, I don't even know. On and on and on. I think you guys get the idea. S1, man, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you.
Man, it's a pleasure to be on here, man. Pleasure.
Appreciate you taking the time. Man, well, congrats on the new Eminem placement. How did that one come about?
It came about. I actually been working with M for a while now. Like it's to a point now to where big ups Tracy McNew, who's over there. She's always like, "Yo, Marshall need a new batch from you," So I constantly send him stuff every other week, and he records to him, and then when the album comes out, I just happen to always have like one or two on the albums, So it's just been a process of just learning his sound and learning what he gravitates toward the most, and just always make sure that I'm supplying that demand.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're sitting down to make beats, are you a lot of times thinking about a specific artist, or are you just doing kind of what inspires you and then going, okay, this will be good for this person?
Sometimes I am, but most of the time, it's just me getting in there and just throwing the paint to the canvas and see what it comes up to be. And then after that, it's like, okay, let me listen to this and see where I can place these things and send them. I find that to be like the best for me, because sometimes having those limitations, just depending on what creative space I'm in, sometimes having those creative limitations when I'm in a different space will affect me creatively. So I like to just kind of just get in there and create, and then once I'm done, see who it could possibly work for.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's how it is for me. Like I like to get in the studio and just try to get inspired. I think part of it is like, for me, if I try to do something for something very specific, I start to overthink it. It's
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the same for me.
Yeah, man. So, we talked a little bit. I mentioned just some of the accomplishments, sort of the music industry side of things, but you're also somebody who's been doing things on sort of the entrepreneurial side for a long time. You're kind of even, sort of that first group of producers that started to leverage, social media and the internet and technology, along with like Illmind and some of those guys. And we were talking before this. We had met up at a producer conference, like 10 years ago. So you've been
10
kind
years
of
ago.
doing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, time flies. That seems like a million years ago right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've always kind of done a certain amount of both. I'm curious about what's that balance been like, or why didn't you just say, well, cool, I'm getting paid by the record label, or I'm getting paid, over here. Like what also made you want to do kind of that entrepreneurial side of things too?
Well, early on, I realized that I had to treat this as a business. So it's like treating it as a job. I feel like if for those who want to be a rapper or artist or a songwriter, if you're not doing that every day, then you're not treating it as a job. So once I realized that I wanted to be a producer, it was just me doing that every day, but then also expanding on that. Okay, this is just one aspect of what my career can be. How can I expand this? What can this lead to? And just always just being in a just experimenting with things. Like my whole career, I always say that it's been trial and error, trying things, see if it works. If it works, stay with it. If it doesn't, move on to the next thing. So it's just been a lot of just playing the game and just figuring out what works and throwing away what doesn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's to me, that's the approach, is experimentation. It's all an experiment, and it takes some of the pressure off too.
It's
If you're
all
just like, all
experimenting.
right, let's see what
It
happens,
does.
and then
And at the end of the day, no one knows what will work until we try it.
right.
You don't know, so you have to just throw things out and test things and try things and see if it works, because there's a possibility that it may.
Yeah. And what do you think has given you the courage to do that, to quit your job and go full time in music, to decide you're gonna write a book, to put out sample packs, to do all this stuff that you do? How do you find the courage to do that, or make that decision?
Well, early on for me, even prior to me quitting my job, it was just me doing exactly what I said, trying things, like shooting my shots. And then
Right.
I would always have, as many failures that I would always have these little small successes. And it was always those small successes that made me realize that, okay, there's a possibility. And this success wouldn't
Mhm.
have happened if I wouldn't have applied some type of action. So once I started to realize that, it was like, okay, let me try this. Okay, let me throw this out there. And there was very specific moments too. I remember a while back when I had my group Strange Fruit Project, and we were trying to pursue this thing, being rappers, and I was the producer of the group and also a rapper. And there were just always little moments. I remember one time a Winterfresh commercial came on TV, and they was like, "Be the next Winterfresh commercial. Just submit your demo, or it was basically write a song for Winterfresh, shoot a video for it, send the video in, and we'll be picking a winner, and you'll be the next face for Winterfresh." So we did it. I was like, I called my fellas up, and we went in the studio one weekend, did a 30-second commercial. Had my friends Tahiti, who was a videographer, he shot a little video for it, sent it in. A couple months later, they hit us like, "Yo, you guys have been selected to be the next Wrigley commercial." So we had this commercial, and we were getting these very nice SAG checks from it. And it was just always little things like this.
You still have that, the video of
BT,
that somewhere?
I do. I have it on the VHS tape. I'm gonna have
That
to
must
post
be a
that one
trip.
day.
Yeah, man, you should definitely post that. So was
Yeah,
that
I'm,
kind of
I'm gonna
like
do
one of
that.
the
I'm gonna definitely
first,
post
like,
it one day.
that was one of the first like wins where you're like, okay, I feel
Yeah, that was
good.
that was one of the first wins, and then also like putting our first album out and seeing how that eventually got in the hands of Questlove from the Roots, which eventually got into the hands of Erica Badu. And so that was another element. And then doing other things production wise and seeing how it was spreading. And it's like once that clicked, that I just have to plant the seed and move on to the next seed and plant and plant. And at some point, these things, not everything, but some things will come back to you. And once I developed that concept, man, it was off to the races, because at that point it was like, let me see what all I can do every day. Let me
Mm-hmm.
make sure that every day I'm taking the time to invest in myself and put things out and try things and build on that. And over time, things just started to come back from the things that I was planning.
Right. No, that's interesting. It's kind of finding that balance, I think, between um, believing something can happen and not being delusional, and then also
Yes.
like celebrating those wins along the way, and recognizing them as like, okay, I think there's something here, and also recognize that you have accomplished those things. Because if you're always just looking
Hmm.
like, well, I want to win 3 Grammys and be platinum and work with the biggest artists in the world, if that's the only thing you're looking at, you forget to celebrate those little wins along the way. You actually don't
So
realize
true.
how far you've come, right?
That's so true. That is so true, man.
So
Like you have to, and you really have to like take it step by step. Um, a lot of times we'll want to go from A to Z, not realizing that there are so many steps. And these little small successes or small steps that we actually take are getting us closer to that Z, but you have to take those steps to get there.
right, right. It's all those incremental little things. It's
Yeah.
the daily habits. It's then the milestones, even the small milestones, and they all kind of they add up. So sounds like that early one was like the Wrigley commercial, and then you
Yeah.
started to mention Questlove got a hold of some of the music, and then Erica Badu. What was that story, or what did that lead into?
Oh, that was amazing because it, like I said, it was at the point we were putting our first album out. And do you remember OK Player, the forum OK Player?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, around the time it was this group called Little Brother. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Little Brother, super dope hip hop group. Um, and they were bubbling at the time. And then right when they started bubbling, like our name started to get in the same conversations and on the same forums. And Questlove took note of that. And uh, what Erica told me, so Badu later told me that Questlove made her listen to our CD. Was like, "Yo, these guys are from
Wow.
Dallas too. They live in Dallas too, and I'm gonna make you listen to it." So after she heard it, she became an instant fan, man. And she called me one day, just out the blue, called me on my cell phone. And the way she got my number is when we first put our album out, we put it out independently, and we basically just pressed 1,000 CDs from CD Baby. And I was kind of the manager at the time for the group, so I had my number on the back of the CD, like for bookings. And she wound up getting my number from that. So she called me one day, and we had this very long conversation. And she was like, "Man, let's keep in contact. I would love to work on some music with y'all, and let's just build." So fast forward, our next album,
What did
she actually
that
did a
feel
song
like
on our
when
album.
you heard, you know, somebody who's a legend like that say she was excited to work with you?
It was really just another confirmation for me that we were headed in the right direction. It goes back to those having those successes like that kind of lets you know that you're aligned with your purpose and that you're on the right track. You know,
Yeah.
so that was just another moment of realizing that we're doing the right thing. And also to continue to do this, you know, continue to plant the seeds and continue to try things because it works. Um, yeah, so like I say, that eventually led to her hopping on one of our songs, coming out, shooting a video with us. You know, that was the first time our video was playing on like VH1 Soul and a couple of other channels. And yeah, it was just one of those moments to where it was like you realize that, hey, as long as you apply the action, things can happen from it.
That's dope. That's dope. And so in that group, it sounds like you were kind of the manager. So were you also an artist and a producer in that group, or?
Yes, I started out rapping. So I was a rapper in the group, but then I was also the producer of the group as well. And I was just like the manager, um, really a little bit, just a little bit after we released that album. Then we started getting people coming to us, and then eventually we hired our good friend Vincent and a guy by the name of Brandon. They became our managers and taking on that load for us, so we could focus on just the music.
Got it. I know that's something that comes up is like when am I ready for a manager, or when do I need a manager, or whatever. What would you what would you tell people about that?
I always say when you create something for the manager to, when you create a service for the manager, you know, there has to be something to manage first. You know,
Right.
so I think a lot of time our artists will get caught up in, I need a manager to do this, when the main focus should be you doing what you're supposed to do, putting the material out and making sure that, you know, you're creating some type of momentum to build something for the manager to manage. You
Right.
know, and then at that point, then it's like, okay, I need someone to handle this so I can continue to focus on the music and the art while they can handle this for us. But I think there has to be a point of you really putting in the work, and then also a great thing too is when you don't have a manager, you tend to learn more about that side, and I think that's an important thing too. Like because prior to getting a manager, we was so self-sufficient and we was doing everything, literally everything. I was I was mixing, I was mastering the albums, I was putting the albums together. Um, I was handling the bookings. So I knew that process, and I was learning that process because I had to do it. And then at some point, like I say, you hand that task over to someone else, but I know it, so I can be able to communicate certain things to the manager because I was able to learn it.
Yeah, no, I think that's so smart. I mean, I think sometimes producers think, "Oh, I just need this manager to save me, or this record label, or even this artist to
Yeah.
save me." And it's like,
Mhm.
what did you say? Like, you need you need to give the manager something to manage. Like, it's actually the other way around. It's not that they
Yes,
create that in the first place; it's that you create it in the first place,
that is
and it
exactly
grows
right.
to a point
Yep,
where you actually need their help. It's not they don't create the
absolutely.
demand;
It's
you
not the
create
other
the
way
demand.
around. Yeah. Hmm.
Totally. And that's another great point too, is by doing it yourself, which is what you kind of have to do anyways, it's also going to give you that skill set that's going to serve you to where even if somebody could save you, let's say, day one, oh, you made a dope beat, now I'm going to be your manager or whatever, like you wouldn't understand what that person was doing. You wouldn't understand your place in the industry. And
Yeah.
eventually you'd probably not be successful because you wouldn't know how to navigate that, but you put in all that time as the manager. And, it sounds like you really had a lot of control. I mean, we were just talking before this, how you're running some of your own Facebook ads, you know what I mean? Which I was kind of surprised to hear, but that's dope. Cause it just sounds like you have that, a combination of like understanding, well, let me create that first before I'm going to hire a media manager a media buyer that's going to charge me, $3,500 on top of the ad spend on top of the whatever. Well, let me learn it first. Let me create that demand. And that's impressive to see that you still have that humility and that hunger when you are you've made it by every however you want to say that phrase,
Yeah, I mean, I think too, because I'm such a student and I love learning. I love attaining information, and I love applying information to things, seeing if things work. Like I'm very intrigued with the process of just taking nothing and seeing something come from it. Whatever that process may be. Because I think it's different in certain aspects of what we do. But I think I'm just always a student, and I'm always learning certain things that I know is going to take me to the next level once I get it.
Yeah, no, I think that joy of learning is so important. If you lose that, you're not progressing anymore. And I see it too. I really think there's such a parallel between producing and marketing and business, and really everything, is that you can take that creativity, just like you're a student of the game for producing and learning about, the VSTs and learning about the hardware and learning about music theory and whatever. Same thing over, okay, now I'm learning about Facebook ads and I'm learning about funnels and I'm learning about this and really anything. But if you can take that same creativity and excitement and apply it to it, that's when it becomes fun, and that's when the real big results,
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's just hard sometimes, I think, for the audience for this podcast is producers, so that's why I kind of keep coming back to that. For like, as producers, a lot of times we have trouble applying that same mindset. We know we like making beats, cool, but then it's like, I don't want to do I don't want to learn Facebook ads, I don't want to learn how to do this other stuff. But when you have the mindset that you do, then it's like, oh no, this is fun, I'm ready, let's go, let's dive in, let's figure it out. It's going to be it's a puzzle to solve today.
Yeah, I think when you realize that, like I can literally just sit in my room and make beats all day, or sit in the studio and make beats all day. But if you don't understand the other side of taking those and actually putting them out there and put them in the right places and getting them to the right people, then they're just gonna be beats that collect on your hard drive. So it's always the mentality of building a product and presenting the product, no matter what it is. That's the beats, that's songs, that's kits, that's merchandise. No matter what it is, it's always creating the product and presenting the product to your audience.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So with all that, with creating the product, making beats, creating all these different things, the merch, the kits, the book. Which shout out, what remind me the title of the book?
The book is Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute. Actually got it right here.
Pray, Focus,
Plan, Execute. A memoir by S1. Yeah.
Dope. We'll come back to that in a minute, but I just wanted to make sure we got the title.
Okay, yeah, we'll get
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Actually, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this was one of my biggest accomplishments, because I quit so many times in the process of writing this because it was just so exhausting. Well, it took probably a span of like 2.5 years, but when I sat down and was like, okay, I have to finish this, then I would say about 6 months.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what was the why'd you write the book?
I wrote the book once I realized, like, my purpose in anything I do is always to inspire and encourage and motivate people. I was like, how can I take all of my experiences and all of my failures and all of my insecurities and put them in one place in story form, that people can read this? Because the one thing I realized about the book is a lot of people that have read it, they always hit me and like, yo, I'm going through this right. Chapter 6, I'm going through this right now. Or yo, chapter 10, that's what I went through 6 months ago. So I realized that just in me presenting those things, and like I say, my insecurities and failures, and showing people how I overcame those to get to my successes or my achievements. Man, there's so much inspiration in that. So that was my purpose for writing the book, is like, how can I put all of this in one thing so people can read this in story form to be inspired by it.
Nice.
And like I said, that was the purpose for writing it. It just was, the process of writing it was so exhausting. and going through the phases of being inspired one day and the next day you can't think of anything, is you're staring at a computer or a blank piece of paper. That was challenging as well, because it's like, okay, every day I know I need to write, but every day I don't have a lot of the inspiration or information coming to me to be able to write.
Right. Yeah, it sounds
And
like
it was
beats.
frustrating at times. Same thing, exact same thing.
Yeah. And I imagine that your experience as a producer probably helped, of like, okay, I know about the ebb and flow of creativity and inspiration. Like, I know, like, I'm sure it's still extremely hard, but I imagine that at least helped with that process.
Yes. Yeah, it helped me understand like the process of creating is the same across the board, no matter what type of thing we're creating. The process is really the same, and the mentality is still the same, the mindset. Another thing that helped me though too is probably about halfway through just the writing process, I hired a writing coach. And it was then having this writing coach, big ups to my writing coach, Stephanie. She started to show me new ways to approach writing. And she showed me new ways of having different perspectives on writing. And that, in a nutshell, kind of flipped the whole thing of my whole approach. The way I was writing one dimensional, it kind of opened things up for me. So, so that's one thing too, is just having people that have experienced or done what you're trying to do or where you're trying to get to. Having those people around to show you certain things is everything.
Bro,
that's having mentors and having people. That's a big key. That's a big key to getting to where you're trying to go in less time.
It's a huge gem. It's the shortcut. That's what it's been for me, is, starting to get an interest in something, and, okay, starting to learn it a little bit, getting that foundation, like we talked about, doing it on your own, understanding it enough. But then at a certain point, when you find, like you said, somebody who's actually done this at the level you're trying to do it, or the next level from you, it's such a shortcut. Instead of, well, let me do even more and more trial and error there, where it's going to take me years, I can actually shortcut that and compress that time, that decade, into, months or weeks, because this person has already tried all those things, and they can help not only give like the information, because I feel like that is something that in 2020, 2021, it's like we have plenty of information. It's more about the insight of like, okay, I can take in all this information, but what's the information that's relevant to me right now that's going to help me move the needle? And when somebody's experienced it and been through it, they can look at your situation and say, okay, here's how you need to approach this next. Here's the next step. Here's how you can actually, make that progress and actually speed up, to get the result you're trying to get.
So important. It's so important, man.